This is my 15-minute mini teach over the water cycle. I'm going to be teaching this lesson to a theoretical class of 3rd graders, and they're going to be 3 beginning English learners and 3 intermediate English learners and 1 native speaker. The objective for this lesson is that after the lesson on the water cycle and related activities, the student will be able to correctly label the 3 phases of the water cycle, and they will be able to match the descriptions that go along with it. Since this lesson is strictly based on content and not language, I've adapted the assessment so that each student will be able to understand and comprehend what's being asked. For the beginning English learners, the descriptions will have images to go along with them. And for the intermediate English learners, they have a simple description, and the native speaker will have a more complex description of the phases. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about the water cycle. So who's heard of the water cycle before? Okay, so what comes to mind when you guys think of water? Start saying some things.
Rain. Snow. Ice.
Okay, all of these things have to do with the water cycle. So there are 3 phases of the water cycle, and that's what we're going to be learning today. And there's one thing that powers the whole water cycle. Who knows what that is? Anyone have any guesses?
Water.
No, the sun powers the water cycle. So without the sun, we can't have the water cycle. Okay, and then we're going to draw our water and some land. That's my mountain. Okay, so it starts out by the sun heats up the water, and as the water starts to heat up, the water turns into water vapor and begins to move up into the air. When you get really high up into the air, what is this called up here?
Clouds.
Clouds, or like
the atmosphere.
The atmosphere. Good job. Okay, so as the water heats up, it moves into the atmosphere, it turns into water vapor. And these red arrows show that the water is heating up. So when it turns into water vapor, this is called evaporation. Can everyone say that with me?
Evaporation.
Okay, now once the water vapor is in the atmosphere, it starts to cool down and condense and pull together. And we call this, or it forms a cloud. And this is called condensation. Can you guys say that together?
Condensation.
Okay, so we have the water warming up, and that's evaporation, and cooling down and forming a cloud, that's condensation. And then once it's in the cloud, it can move around the earth, and then when the cloud finally falls and moisture comes out, this is called precipitation. Can you guys say that together? Precipitation.
Precipitation.
Okay. Who can name some forms of precipitation? Anyone? Yes.
Rain.
Rain. Anyone else?
Snow.
Snow. Anyone? Okay, so there's rain, snow, sleet, hail. All of these can come out of the cloud, and they can come out on the land or back into the water, but they always flow back into the main source. So let's go over this again. The sun heats up the water, and as the water begins to heat, it forms, or this is called
Evaporation.
And then as the water vapor cools and forms a cloud, it's called
Condensation.
And then as the moisture comes out of the cloud, this is called
Precipitation.
Good job. Okay, so next we're going to listen to a little song, and in the song, I'm going to show you guys the steps first, and then we're going to go over the motions, and then everyone's going to stand up and do the motions together. Okay.
Water travels in a cycle, yes it does. Water travels in a cycle, yes it does. It goes up as evaporation, forms clouds as condensation, then falls down as precipitation, yes it does.
Okay, now I'm going to show you guys the hand motions. You can do them together. Okay, now we're all going to stand up and do it a couple times together. Okay, make sure you do the hand motions, and you can sing too if you want. At least say the phases when it gets to the phases.
Water travels in a cycle, yes it does. Water travels in a cycle, yes it does. It goes up as evaporation, forms clouds as condensation, then falls down as precipitation.
Good job. Okay, one more time.
Water travels in a cycle, yes it does. Water travels in a cycle, yes it does. It goes up as
Evaporation,
forms clouds as
condensation,
then falls down as
precipitation.
Good job. Okay, next we're going to make a water cycle in a bag, and then, so here, everyone take a bag, and you can take one Sharpie too. Okay, so the first thing we're going to put on the water cycle is what powers the water cycle, which is
The sun.
the sun. Okay, so everyone draw that in the top corner. Like this. Next, at the bottom, we're going to draw our water, and you can draw some land if you want, however you want to make it. Now, we're going to add our arrows in that show our first phase of the water cycle, which is what?
Evaporation.
Evaporation. So draw your arrows and then write evaporation. If you don't know how to spell it, it's right up here. And then we're going to draw arrows showing the water vapor cooling and forming a cloud. And what is this step called?
Condensation.
Correct. Good job. Next, everyone is going to draw, you can draw whatever kind you want, but moisture coming out of the cloud, which is called?
Precipitation.
Good job. So, can you guys name some types of precipitation?
Rain. Snow. Hail.
Good job. So now this is our water cycle. And then you guys can come up, and I'm going to pour some water into your bags. And then later we're going to put these bags on a window in our classroom. And we'll take them to the window, and over time we'll be able to see the water moving up into the atmosphere and then begin to cool and fall back down into the water. Oops, sorry here. Okay, make sure you get them really sealed tight.
Should we squeeze the air out of them?
Yeah, as much as you can. Okay. Now, before our assessment, we're going to go over this one more time before I erase it. So what is powering a water cycle?
Sun.
The sun. And then what happens? The sun heats up the water, and what's happening right here?
Evaporation.
Evaporation, and that's the water vapor warming and rising into the atmosphere. And then as the water vapor begins to cool and form a cloud, this is called
Condensation.
And then the cloud lets out moisture, and this is called
Precipitation.
Good job. Okay, for your guys' assessment, you're going to have on the back of your sheet of paper, you're going to draw the water cycle right here. So let's all put our water cycles behind our chairs. Okay, so you're going to draw the water cycle on the back of your paper, and on the front there are the terms, and you can choose which term goes in which spot. So you're going to label the spots on the water cycle that you draw: precipitation, evaporation, and condensation. And then you're going to pick the description that goes along with the term in each phase. So if you think B goes with evaporation, then you put a B next to number 2. Okay? So I need to get one more. There are pens and pencils right there if you need those, or you can just draw them. Okay, when you're done with your paper, just hold it up in the air and I'll come around and take it. Okay, that's the end of my